In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where civilizations rise and fall like waves on cosmic shores, there exists a fundamental truth that most species learn too late. Never underestimate the prey that refuses to run. For 3 million years, the Kethmori had ruled the hunting grounds of 17 star systems, their obsidian ships cutting through space like predators through dark water. They were apex hunters, evolved from the nightmare depths of a world where only the most cunning killers survived. Their reputation preceded them across the galaxy. Entire worlds would surrender at the mere whisper of their name. But humanity had never heard that whisper. When the first human colony ship drifted into Kethmori territory, the alien Huntress who found them saw only another species to add to her collection. After all, these pale, soft creatures looked so delicate, so tender, so perfectly vulnerable. She had no way of knowing that she had just made the greatest mistake in Kethmori history. What follows is not just the story of first contact. It's the story of what happens when a galaxy's most feared predator discovers that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one that fights back with a smile. The colony ship New Horizon drifted through the void like a wounded whale, its hull scarred by 3 years of micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation. Inside its cramped corridors, 800 souls slept in cryogenic chambers, dreaming of the promised world that waited somewhere beyond the next star system. They had left Earth with hope burning in their hearts and the desperation of a dying world at their backs. Captain Sarah Chun stood in the observation deck, her weathered hands pressed against the reinforced viewport as she watched the alien vessel approach. It moved with a predatory grace that made her skin crawl, all sharp angles and flowing curves like some deep-sea nightmare, given form in metal and composite materials. The ship was beautiful in the way that venomous creatures were beautiful, a warning wrapped in aesthetic perfection. First contact protocols are active, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb from the bridge. His voice crackled through the intercom, barely concealing the tension that gripped the entire crew. The universal translators are online, and we're broadcasting the standard Peaceful Intentions package. Sarah nodded, though her eyes never left the alien ship. 3 days ago, it had appeared on their long-range sensors, matching their course and velocity with an ease that suggested technology far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Now it hung barely a kilometer off their starboard bow, close enough that she could make out the intricate patterns etched into its hull. They looked almost ceremonial, like the war paint of some ancient warrior culture. "Any response to our transmissions?" she asked. "Nothing yet, ma'am, but they're scanning us. Energy signatures are off the charts. Whatever they're using, it's reading us like an open book." The captain's jaw tightened. The New Horizon was armed, but only with defensive systems designed to clear debris or deal with pirates. Against a civilization capable of building something like the vessel before them, they might as well have been throwing rocks. Still, she had a responsibility to her people. 800 colonists depended on her to get them safely to New Geneva, the world that surveys had promised was perfect for human habitation. "Maintain course and speed," she ordered, "but be ready to execute evasive maneuvers on my command." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, the alien ship moved, not toward them, but alongside them, matching their trajectory perfectly. Sarah could see details now. Ports that might have been weapons arrays, sections that pulsed with a bioluminescent glow, and what looked like observation blisters made of some transparent material. As she watched, one of those blisters darkened, and she realized with a chill that something was looking back at her. The communication console chirped, and Webb's voice returned. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. Audio only, but the universal translator is processing it now. Put it through." The voice that filled the observation deck was unmistakably feminine, though it carried undertones that no human throat could produce, subsonic frequencies that seemed to vibrate in her bones, and harmonics that made her teeth ache. When the words came, they were perfectly articulated English, though the accent was like nothing Sarah had ever heard. "Greetings, little ship of strange creatures. I am Zasthara, Hunt leader of the Crimson Talon. Your species is unknown to me, which makes you interesting. Sarah keyed her personal communicator. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth colonial ship New Horizon. We're peaceful explorers seeking a new home. We mean no harm to you or your people. A sound came through the speakers that might have been laughter, though it sounded more like the purr of some great cat. Peaceful? How delightfully naive. Tell me, Captain Sarah Chun, do the prey animals on your world also claim to be peaceful? The comparison sent ice through Sarah's veins, but she kept her voice steady. We're not prey, and we're not animals. We're a spacefaring civilization with rights recognized under galactic law. Galactic law? The aliens' amusement was palpable. Child, there's only one law in this galaxy, the law of the hunt. The strong take what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. You have entered the territory of the Kethmori, and that makes you subject to our customs. And what customs are those? The hunt, of course. It has been too long since we encountered a new species. Your ship, your people, your very existence here is a gift. I can smell you through the void, Captain Sarah Chun. You smell like fear and desperation and another purr, deeper this time, something else. Something that makes my hunting glands salivate. Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her through the internal monitors. They were listening, all of them, waiting for her to find a way out of this nightmare. She thought of the sleeping colonists, the families who had trusted her to guide them to safety, the children who would never see their new world if she failed them now. We have nothing of value to you, she said. Our ship is old, our technology primitive compared to yours. Let us continue on our way, and we'll trouble you no more. Oh, but you do have something of value. You have yourselves. The alien's voice dropped to what might have been a whisper, but it carried clearly through the comm system. 837 individuals, if my scanners are correct. Such a delightful number for a proper hunt. The captain's blood ran cold. Hunt, the great hunt of Zasthra, to give its proper title. I am, you see, something of an artist when it comes to the pursuit and capture of new species. Your kind will make an excellent addition to my collection. Already, I can envision the chase. Your clumsy ship fleeing through the asteroid fields of Keth Prime while my hunters pursue you. The terror, the desperation, the final moment when you realize that escape is impossible. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about tradition. For 3 million years, the Kethmori have hunted the galaxy's lesser species. We are apex predators, Captain Sarah Chun, evolved from the depths of a world where only the strongest, fastest, and most cunning survived. Hunting is not merely what we do, it is what we are. And you, my dear little morsel, are about to become part of something magnificent. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. When she opened them again, her gaze was steel. And if we refuse to participate in your hunt? Refuse. That sounds like laughter again. How could you refuse? You're already here, already caught in my web. Even now, my ship's systems are analyzing your drive signature, your energy patterns, your every weakness. You cannot outrun us. You cannot outfight us. And you cannot hide from us. The only choice you have is whether you wish to make this interesting or merely pathetic. The alien ship began to move closer, and Sarah could see more details of its construction. The hull wasn't just decorated. It was covered in what looked like trophies. Fragments of other ships, pieces of technology from a dozen different civilizations, all arranged in complex patterns that spoke of victories and conquests spanning millennia. However, Zasthara continued, her tone shifting slightly. I'm not entirely without mercy. I will give you a sporting chance, as befits prey of your apparent intelligence. A head start, if you will. One of your standard days to run as far and as fast as your primitive vessel can manage. After that, the hunt begins in earnest. And then, I will pursue you across the stars themselves if necessary. I will harry you and harass you and drive you to the very edge of madness before I finally bring you down. Some of you will survive the hunt itself. The strongest, the most clever, the most entertaining. Those few will join my collection, preserved for my amusement, and the education of future generations of Kethmori hunters. Sarah felt her heart hammering against her ribs, but her voice remained steady. And the rest? The rest will provide more immediate satisfaction. We are, after all, predators in every sense of the word. The captain looked around the observation deck, seeing her own reflection multiplied in the windows and monitors. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, who would never know what happened to her mother's ship. She thought of the families sleeping in cryo, trusting her to wake them only when they reached safety. She thought of humanity itself, still struggling on a dying world, still reaching for the stars despite every setback and disaster. "You know what?" she said finally. "I think you're going to regret this." The silence that followed stretched for several seconds before Zastaroth spoke again, and this time her voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. "Regret? What an interesting word choice." "Explain." Sarah smiled, though she knew the alien couldn't see her expression. "You said you've been doing this for 3 million years. Hunting, collecting, terrorizing weaker species. That a long time to get comfortable, to get confident in your own superiority. Maybe too long. Continue. The thing is, every predator eventually encounters prey that doesn't behave the way it's supposed to. Prey that adapts, fights back, turns the tables. Evolution doesn't stop just because you think you're at the top of the food chain. And you believe your species represents such an evolutionary leap. "I believe," Sarah said, her smile growing wider, "that you're about to find out. Consider this fair warning, hunt leader Zastaroth. You wanted a hunt, and you'll get one. But you might not like the way it ends." Another pause, and when the alien spoke again, there was something new in her voice. Not quite concern, but perhaps the first faint stirring of uncertainty. "Brave words from trapped prey. We'll see. How long did you say we have?" "One standard day. 26 of your hours and 14 minutes, to be precise. More than enough." Sarah turned away from the viewport, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Webb, signal the engine room. I want every system checked and double-checked. Wake the senior staff from cryo and brief them on the situation. And give me a complete inventory of our cargo holds." "Ma'am, we're going to give our new friend exactly what she asked for," Sarah said, her smile turning predatory. "A hunt she'll never forget." As the alien ship fell back to a respectful distance to begin its surveillance, Sarah Chun walked briskly toward the elevator that would take her to the command deck. Behind her, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the drama about to unfold among the tiny ships that crawled between them. But if the stars could have watched, they might have seen something unprecedented beginning to take shape in the void, a confrontation that would echo across the galaxy and redefine what it meant to be both predator and prey. The hunt was about to begin, but as Zastaroth would soon discover, humans had their own definitions of what that word meant. And sometimes the most dangerous game was the one where the rules changed in the middle of play. The emergency wake cycle hummed through the new horizon as Captain Chun strode onto the bridge, her senior officers already gathering around the central holographic display. The ship's artificial gravity plates groaned under the strain of maintaining standard Earth gravity, while the vessel's aging engines pushed them forward at maximum sustainable velocity. Commander Elena Vasquez was the first to break the silence, her dark eyes reflecting the amber glow of the tactical displays. "Captain, I've reviewed the recordings of your conversation with the alien. Are we seriously being hunted by space-age serial killers?" "That's one way to put it," Sarah replied, taking her position at the command chair. Status report. Lieutenant Commander Webb pulled up a series of holographic screens. "All primary systems are green, but we're already pushing the fusion drives beyond recommended parameters. At current acceleration, we'll reach the edge of this system in approximately 18 hours. After that," he shrugged helplessly. "After that, we're in open space with nowhere to hide," finished Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, the ship's chief science officer. She'd been awakened from cryo barely an hour ago, but her mind was already working at full capacity. "I've been analyzing the scans of their vessel. The technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of anything we have. Possibly more. Sarah nodded grimly. And our options for fighting back? Non-existent, replied Major David Santos, the ship's security chief. His weathered face bore the scars of Earth's final wars, and his voice carried the resignation of a soldier who'd seen too many hopeless battles. We've got small arms, some mining charges for asteroid clearing, and a couple of defensive plasma arrays that couldn't scratch the paint on that thing. If it comes to a shooting match, we'll last about 30 seconds. The bridge fell silent, except for the subtle vibration of the engines and the soft chime of monitoring systems. 800 lives hung in the balance, and everyone present knew that conventional thinking would get them all killed. What about unconventional thinking? Sarah asked suddenly. Dr. Morgan raised an eyebrow. Explain. This Zasthara, she's a hunter. She spent 3 million years perfecting the art of chasing down prey that runs, hides, or fights back in predictable ways. But what if we don't do any of those things? Major Santos leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. Go on. Sarah called up the ship's manifest on the main display, scrolling through hundreds of entries. We're not just a colony ship. We're carrying everything needed to establish a complete industrial civilization on New Geneva. Manufacturing equipment, raw materials, genetic samples, cultural archives, everything humanity needs to start over. Including, Commander Vasquez noted, following the captain's train of thought, some rather exotic items that were classified under special colonial requirements. Dr. Morgan's eyes widened as she accessed the restricted sections of the manifest. Captain, some of these items are highly dangerous. Experimental technologies that were banned on Earth for good reason. Desperate times, Sarah replied simply. Webb, how long until our friend starts her hunt? 19 hours and 46 minutes, ma'am. Plenty of time. Santos, I want you to wake every engineer, technician, and scientist we have. Tell them we're facing an extinction-level threat, and we need miracles. Morgan, you're with me. We're going to pay a visit to Cargo Hold 7. The cargo hold was a vast chamber deep in the ship's belly, its walls lined with hundreds of sealed containers marked with warning symbols in a dozen languages. The air recyclers worked constantly to maintain safe atmospheric conditions, but there was still an underlying smell of ozone and chemical preservatives that made everyone's skin crawl. Container 7, Alpha 91, Dr. Morgan read from her tablet. Project Pandora artifacts. Content classified at the highest levels of Earth colonial authority. She paused, her finger hovering over the access controls. Sarah, are you sure about this? Some of these projects were terminated because they were deemed too dangerous to exist. Right now, dangerous is exactly what we need. Sarah placed her palm on the biometric scanner, followed by Dr. Morgan's. The container seals disengaged with a pneumatic hiss, revealing row upon row of smaller cases, each labeled with cryptic alphanumeric codes. Here, Sarah said, pointing to a case marked PD7, Adaptive Nanotechnology Swarm. This was Dr. Harrison's project before the Senate shut him down. Self-replicating machines capable of rebuilding matter at the molecular level. Dr. Morgan shook her head. The control protocols were never perfected. These things could consume the entire ship if they malfunctioned. Or they could give us capabilities that our alien friend has never encountered before. Sarah carefully lifted the case, feeling the subtle vibration of the millions of microscopic machines contained within. What about this one? PD-12, Quantum Entanglement Communication Array. Instantaneous communication across any distance, Morgan confirmed. But the power requirements are enormous, and the quantum resonance patterns could interfere with our ship's systems in unpredictable ways. They continued through the inventory, pulling out technologies that Earth's government had deemed too risky, too unpredictable, or too morally questionable for general use. Genetic modification viruses that could rewrite DNA in real time. Gravity manipulation fields that could bend space itself. Artificial intelligence cores that had been banned after demonstrating capabilities that their creators couldn't understand or control. This is insane, Dr. Morgan muttered as they loaded the selected items onto a transport cart. We're talking about deploying experimental weapons against an enemy whose capabilities we don't understand, using technologies we can barely control. Insane, Sarah agreed, but not predictable. And that might be the only advantage we have. Back on the bridge, the senior staff had expanded to include every department head and specialist the ship carried. Engineers clustered around improvised workstations, their tablets and holographic displays showing schematics and calculations that grew more complex by the minute. The air buzzed with urgent conversations and the rapid-fire exchange of technical data. "Report," Sarah called out as she entered the command center. Chief Engineer Patricia Kumar looked up from a three-dimensional hologram that showed the ship's internal structure overlaid with potential modifications. "We've identified 17 different ways to integrate the Pandora artifacts into our existing systems. Most of them have a high probability of catastrophic failure, but a few show promise." She highlighted several sections of the hologram. "The nanotechnology swarm could be used to rebuild our whole configuration during flight, making us effectively a shapeshifter. The quantum communicator could let us coordinate with multiple versions of ourselves across parallel timelines. And the AI cores." She paused, looking uncomfortable. "What about the AI cores?" Sarah prompted. "They could take over the ship's entire operational matrix, optimizing every system in real time and giving us reaction speeds that would match or exceed our pursuers. But the risk of losing control to a superintelligent AI that doesn't share human values is a risk we'll have to take." Sarah turned to the tactical display, where the alien ship maintained its patient distance. "Because the alternative is certain death or something worse." Major Santos had been quietly reviewing personnel files. "Captain, I've identified 47 crew members with military or emergency response backgrounds. If we're going to turn this ship into something that can fight back, we'll need people who can handle the stress." "Do it." "And Santos, make sure they understand what we're up against. I want volunteers only. No one should feel pressured into this." Dr. Morgan stepped forward, her tablet showing a complex flowchart. "I've been running simulations on the modifications we're proposing. The good news is that several of them could give us capabilities far beyond what our pursuer expects. The bad news is that we're essentially turning our ship into a flying weapons laboratory, with a high probability of accidents that could kill us all before the alien gets the chance." Sarah studied the readouts, her mind weighing probabilities and possibilities. The safe course would be to run, to hope that their head start would somehow lead them to safety. But safety was an illusion when facing a predator that had perfected the hunt across 3 million years. Their only real chance lay in becoming something that didn't fit the predator's expectations. "How long for the modifications?" she asked. "If we work continuously and cut every corner that isn't immediately fatal, maybe 16 hours, Kumar replied. "Then, we'd better get started." Sarah turned to address the entire bridge crew. "People, I'm not going to lie to you about what we're facing. We're outgunned, outmatched, and probably outclassed by an enemy that sees us as nothing more than entertainment. Conventional wisdom says we should run, hide, or surrender and hope for mercy." She paused, looking at each face in turn. "But humans didn't reach the stars by following conventional wisdom. We got here by adapting, by fighting, by refusing to give up even when the odds were impossible. Today, we're going to remind the galaxy why that attitude made us a spacefaring species." The bridge erupted into motion as teams scattered to their assigned tasks. Engineering crews raced toward the cargo holds to begin the dangerous work of integrating alien technologies into human systems. Scientists huddled over portable labs, running calculations and simulations at breakneck speed. Security teams coordinated with the ship's automated systems to prepare for modifications that would turn every corridor into a potential battlefield. In the depths of the ship, the first of the Pandora artifacts was carefully extracted from its containment and connected to the ship's main computer core. The nanotechnology swarm flowed like liquid mercury through specially prepared channels, beginning the slow work of rebuilding the new horizon from the inside out. Quantum processors came online with a subsonic hum that made everyone's teeth ache, their alien computational methods already finding efficiencies that human engineers had never imagined. And in the observation deck where this had all begun, Captain Sarah Chun stood once again before the viewport, watching the alien ship that maintained its patient vigil. Soon, Zasthara would discover that humans had their own traditions when it came to survival. The hunt was indeed about to begin, but it might not end the way the alien Huntress expected. The new horizon was changing, evolving, becoming something new. And in 18 hours, the galaxy would see what happened when human determination met alien arrogance in the vast emptiness between the stars. The transformation of the new horizon began in the deepest sections of a ship, where the nanotechnology swarms worked their molecular magic on the vessel's fundamental structure. Captain Chun watched the progress through real-time feeds, seeing her ship change in ways that defied everything she thought she knew about engineering and physics. Hull integrity is actually improving, Chief Engineer Kumar reported, her voice filled with amazement as she monitored the process from the main engineering console. The nanites are reinforcing weak points, optimizing stress distribution, and creating redundant pathways for critical systems. It's like the ship is healing itself. Dr. Morgan stood beside her, tracking the quantum processors as they integrated with the ship's computer core. The AI is learning our systems faster than I thought possible. It's already identified 17 inefficiencies in our power distribution and corrected them without being asked. Our reactor output has increased by 12%. Any signs of the AI trying to assert control beyond its parameters? Sarah asked, remembering the warnings about artificial intelligence cores that had exceeded their creators' understanding. None so far. If anything, it seems curious about us, like it's trying to understand what we are rather than simply optimizing our performance. Dr. Morgan frowned at her readings. Though I'm getting some unusual patterns in its neural networks. It's developing something that looks almost like personality traits. Outside the ship, the alien vessel maintained its watching position, occasionally sending subtle scanning pulses that washed harmlessly over the new horizon's increasingly sophisticated defenses. Sarah wondered what Zasthara was thinking as she observed the changes occurring in her prey. Could the alien sensors detect the radical alterations taking place within the human ship? The answer came 14 hours into their grace period, when the communications array crackled to life with that now familiar purring voice. How very interesting, Captain Sarah Chun. Your little ship is changing, growing, becoming something other than what it was. I confess myself intrigued by this development. Sarah keyed her communicator, noting that her crew had gathered around their stations to listen. Word of the aliens' contact had spread quickly through the ship, and she could feel hundreds of eyes watching through internal monitors. Just making some improvements, Sarah replied casually. You know how it is with long space flights. There's always something that needs fixing. Indeed, though I suspect your improvements are somewhat more extensive than routine maintenance. My sensors detect energy patterns unlike anything in my considerable database of known technologies. Tell me, Captain, are you perhaps more than you initially appeared? Sarah exchanged glances with Dr. Morgan, who was frantically scanning the alien ship's transmission for any indication that their opponent was preparing to end the hunt early. We're exactly what we said we were. Humans seeking a new home. Humans. The way Zasthara pronounced the word suggested she was tasting it, rolling it around in whatever passed for her mouth. Yes, that was the designation you gave your species. I have been researching your kind during this waiting period, accessing the cultural archives that leak from your ship's data cores. What fascinating creatures you are. Flattery will get you nowhere. Not flattery, Captain. Genuine appreciation for a worthy opponent. Your species' history is remarkable, a catalog of conflicts, catastrophes, and remarkable recoveries. You have survived planetary disasters, global wars, resource collapses, and even your own technological advancement. Most impressive for such a young species. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. You're saying you've hacked our computers? Such a crude term. I prefer to think of it as cultural exchange. Your encryption methods are quite primitive by galactic standards, though they show a refreshing creativity in their approach. I have learned much about human nature from your historical records. Dr. Morgan was frantically typing at her console, running diagnostics to determine how much information had been compromised. Her face was pale as she looked up at the captain. She's right. There's been a data breach, but it's unlike anything I've seen. No forced entry, no system corruption. It's like she simply asked our computers nicely, and they decided to share. Your Dr. Morgan is correct. Zasthara continued, apparently able to hear their conversation through the ship's internal communications. Kethmori technology includes sophisticated systems for understanding new species. Think of it as anthropological research combined with psychological profiling. I must know my prey intimately to provide them with a hunt worthy of their capabilities. And what have you learned? Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. That humans are fascinatingly contradictory. You are simultaneously one of the most violent and most compassionate species I have encountered. You wage wars of devastating brutality while simultaneously creating art of stunning beauty. You destroy your own habitats while desperately seeking to preserve life. You are suspicious of outsiders, yet capable of profound cooperation with strangers. The alien's voice took on a different quality, almost contemplative. Most species I hunt are predictable. They run when afraid, fight when cornered, surrender when hopeless. But humans seem capable of responses I have never encountered. Even now, as you face certain destruction, you spend your time not in despair but in creative problem solving. Is that a problem for you? Sarah asked. On the contrary, it is precisely what makes this hunt so delicious. I've been bored, Captain Sarachun. 3 million years of chasing prey that responds in predictable patterns has left me seeking something more challenging. Your species may finally provide that challenge. Major Santos stepped forward, his expression grim. Captain, I've been analyzing their ship's position and scanning patterns. They're not just watching us anymore. They're studying us, learning our new capabilities in real time. Every modification we make, every system we upgrade, they're cataloging and analyzing. Then, we'd better make sure our modifications are worth their attention, Sarah replied. She turned back to the communications console. Zasthara, you mentioned you've been researching human history. Did you happen to come across any information about what we do to predators that threaten our survival? A pause, longer than the aliens' previous responses. I did note several instances of humans successfully defending themselves against superior predators. Though in most cases, this required the advantages of familiar terrain, numerical superiority, or technological assistance. None of which we have here. None of which you have here, Zasthara agreed. Yet you do not seem appropriately terrified. This suggests either remarkable courage or profound stupidity. Or, Sarah said with a smile her crew could hear in her voice, a plan you haven't considered. 3 hours remain of your grace period, Captain. I suggest you use them wisely. When the hunt begins, I will show you why the Kethmori have ruled the hunting grounds of 17 star systems for longer than your species has existed. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing determination mixed with fear in their faces. They were about to face something beyond their worst nightmares, and they all knew it. Status report on the modifications, she called out. Chief Engineer Kumar consulted her displays. Nanotechnology integration is at 87%. The ship's hull can now reconfigure in real time, and we have structural integrity levels that shouldn't be possible with our materials. The quantum processors have given us computation speeds that are literally off the charts. Dr. Morgan added her findings. The AI cores are fully integrated and responding beautifully. They've optimized every system on the ship and created new ones we didn't even know we needed. Our sensors can now detect quantum fluctuations, gravitic distortions, and energy signatures across 17 different spectrums. Weapons? Sarah asked. Major Santos shook his head. Nothing that would penetrate their defenses in a straight fight. But we've got some interesting alternatives. The nanites can be weaponized if necessary, and the gravity manipulation fields could be used defensively or to create spatial distortions that might confuse their targeting systems. Sarah nodded, processing the information. They had turned their colony ship into something that barely resembled its original configuration, but would it be enough? The alien Huntress had 3 million years of experience, and technology that made their improvements look like Stone Age tools by comparison. There's something else, Dr. Morgan said quietly. The AI has been analyzing the alien ship's scanning patterns and energy signatures. It thinks it's found something. Explain. The ship out there isn't just a hunting vessel. It's ancient, probably several thousand years old, and it's been extensively modified over time. The AI believes it's more of a mobile base than a warship. It's powerful, but it's also designed for long-term endurance rather than rapid combat. Sarah felt a spark of hope. You're saying it might not be optimized for fighting something that fights back? That's exactly what I'm saying. If the Kethmori have spent 3 million years hunting prey that runs or hides, they might not be prepared for an opponent that actively engages them in combat. The captain turned to look out at the stars, her mind racing through possibilities. 3 hours until the hunt began. 3 hours to finalize their preparations and implement whatever strategy they could devise. All hands, she announced over the ship's intercom, her voice carrying to every corner of the vessel. This is your captain. In 3 hours, we're going to face an enemy that considers us nothing more than food. They expect us to run, to hide, to beg for mercy that will never come. They've based their entire strategy on the assumption that we're helpless prey. She paused, letting her words sink in. They're about to learn that humans have never been very good at meeting other people's expectations. We're going to give them a hunt, all right. Just not the kind they're expecting. The ship hummed around her, its new systems operating with an efficiency that seemed almost alive. In 3 hours, they would discover whether human ingenuity could triumph over alien arrogance. The hunt was about to begin, and both predator and prey were about to learn new definitions of those ancient roles. The moment arrived with the subtle precision of a closing trap. Captain Shin stood on the bridge of the transformed New Horizon, watching as the alien ship's energy signature suddenly blazed across their enhanced sensors. After maintaining a respectful distance for 26 hours, Zasthara was finally making her move. "Hunt's on," Major Santos announced grimly, his fingers dancing across the tactical console. "Their weapon systems are charging, and I'm detecting multiple smaller vessels detaching from the main ship. Looks like she brought friends." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the first evidence of what they were truly facing. The alien vessel was disgorging a stream of sleek hunter-killers, each one roughly the size of a human fighter craft, but moving with a fluid grace that suggested entirely different principles of propulsion. They spread out in a complex, three-dimensional formation that would have taken human pilots hours to coordinate. 12 bogies, and counting, reported Lieutenant Commander Webb from the sensor station. "They're not approaching directly. Looks like they're taking positions to hurt us." Dr. Morgan looked up from her console, where streams of data flowed like digital waterfalls. The AI is analyzing their movement patterns. It says this is a classic hunting formation designed to prevent escape while gradually closing the trap. "They're treating us like a wounded animal." "Then, let's show them what this wounded animal can do," Sarah replied. "Kumar, give me everything the ship can handle." Morgan released the AI's combat protocols. "Santos, prepare our surprises." The New Horizons suddenly surged forward with an acceleration that should have pulverized everyone aboard. Instead, the gravity manipulation fields held them steady while the nanotechnology-enhanced hull managed stresses that would have torn apart their original vessel. They shot past the nearest hunter-killer so quickly that the alien craft didn't have time to react. Direct hit on one of their smaller ships. Santos called out. "We just rammed straight through it." But Sarah's satisfaction was short-lived. The alien vessel they had destroyed simply reassembled itself. The fragments came back together like a recording played in reverse, reforming into an undamaged craft within seconds. self-repair technology, Dr. Morgan observed with professional admiration. Probably similar to our nanites, but more advanced. They can survive anything short of complete molecular dissolution. Noted. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta 7. The New Horizon began to move in ways that defied conventional physics. Its hull shifted and flowed like liquid mercury, presenting different profiles to confuse targeting systems. Sensor baffles deployed and retracted in milliseconds, creating false images that showed the ship in multiple locations simultaneously. The quantum processors generated probability clouds that made their exact position uncertain even to themselves. Zastarah's voice came through the communications array, carrying a note of surprise that hadn't been there before. Impressive, Captain Shun. You have been busy during your grace period. But parlor tricks will not save you from the inevitable. The main alien vessel opened fire, and Sarah got her first look at weapons that had been perfected across geological time periods. Beams of coherent energy that could slice through asteroids converged on their position, followed by projectiles that bent space around themselves to avoid conventional defenses. None of them found their target. The New Horizon wasn't just evading the attacks, it was anticipating them. The AI had analyzed the alien weapon systems during their approach and was now predicting firing solutions before the weapons were even aimed. The ship flowed through three-dimensional space like a dancer, always one step ahead of destruction. Their targeting systems are having trouble locking onto us, Webb reported. The quantum uncertainty fields are making us effectively invisible to their sensors for microsecond intervals. Not long, but enough to throw off their aim. And their formation is breaking down, Santos added. The hunter-killers can't coordinate with each other when they can't get reliable readings on our position. But Sarah knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The alien ship was learning, adapting, finding new ways to track their movements despite the technological countermeasures. Already, some of the energy beams were coming closer, and she could feel the ship shuddering under the stress of its radical maneuvers. Time to go on the offensive, she decided. Morgan, deploy package Alpha. Are you sure about this? Dr. Morgan asked, her hand hovering over the control that would release their most dangerous experiment. If this goes wrong, we could destabilize local space-time in a sphere roughly the size of this solar system. If we don't try it, we'll be dead in the next 5 minutes. Do it. Dr. Morgan pressed the control, and reality hiccuped. The quantum entanglement array activated all at once, creating instantaneous connections between the New Horizon and its own quantum shadows across parallel timelines. For a brief, terrifying moment, multiple versions of a ship existed in the same space, each one following a slightly different trajectory and making different tactical decisions. The alien hunters found themselves facing not one ship, but dozens, each one real, each one capable of inflicting damage. Their formation, designed to trap a single target, suddenly became a liability as they were surrounded by enemies that shouldn't have been able to exist in the same reality. Direct hits on 5 enemy vessels. Santos shouted. They're having trouble targeting us when we exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. But the victory was short-lived. The strain of maintaining quantum coherence across multiple timelines was enormous, and the ship's systems were already showing signs of dangerous instability. Worse, Zastarah seemed to understand what was happening. Clever, the alien Huntress acknowledged. Quantum multiplication of combat assets. I have not encountered this particular tactic before, but you cannot maintain such exotic states indefinitely. As if to prove her point, one of the quantum shadows suddenly winked out of existence. Its energy drained finally, exceeding the ship's ability to sustain it. The remaining versions of the New Horizon found themselves facing enemies that were now adapting their tactics to account for quantum uncertainty. New contacts, Webb called out. Something big just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The tactical display updated to show a massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of the New Horizon, and bristling with weapon systems that made Zastarah's ship look like a pleasure craft. As they watched, more ships appeared, an entire fleet materializing from the void. Kethmori reinforcements, Dr. Morgan said quietly. This was never meant to be a fair fight. She was just playing with us. Sarah felt her heart sink as she realized the true scope of what they faced. Zasthara hadn't been hunting them alone. She had an entire battle fleet at her disposal. The human ship, for all its modifications and exotic capabilities, was now facing odds that were literally astronomical. Captain, the AI's voice spoke for the first time since its activation, using the ship's internal speakers with a tone that somehow managed to convey both respect and urgency. I have been analyzing the tactical situation and the behavioral patterns of our opponents. I believe there may be a solution, though it requires a level of trust between human and artificial intelligence that has never been attempted. Sarah looked at Dr. Morgan, who shrugged helplessly. They were out of conventional options, and their exotic ones were rapidly failing against an enemy that could adapt faster than they could innovate. Explain, Sarah said. The Kethmori hunt in accordance with ancient patterns, behavioral algorithms encoded in their culture across millions of years. They are supremely effective against prey that behaves predictably, but their very perfection makes them vulnerable to strategies that fall outside their experiential framework. The ship shuddered as more weapons fire found its mark. The alien hunters finally, adjusting their targeting to account for quantum probability effects. What kind of strategies? Sarah pressed. Strategies that require the complete integration of human creativity with artificial intelligence processing power. I cannot implement such solutions without direct access to human cognitive patterns, and humans cannot process the required calculations without AI assistance. We would need to merge temporarily, sharing consciousness in a way that has never been attempted. Dr. Morgan's face went pale. Neural interface with an experimental AI? Sarah, we have no idea what that could do to your brain. The cognitive feedback alone could kill you, and if the AI decides to assert permanent control, how long do we have before those reinforcements reach us? Sarah asked. Approximately 4 minutes, Webb replied. Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, seeing the same desperate determination that had driven humanity to the stars reflected in every face. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to give up now. Do it, she said, moving toward the AI interface console. Link me in. Sarah, no. Dr. Morgan grabbed her arm. We don't know what this will do to you. We know what happens if we don't try, Sarah replied, gently pulling free. And besides, someone once told me that the most dangerous prey is the kind that refuses to act like prey. She placed her hands on the neural interface pads, feeling the subtle tingle as the AI began to establish a connection with her nervous system. The last thing she heard before the merger began was Zasthara's voice over the communications array. Fascinating. Even facing certain destruction, humans continue to surprise me. Very well, Captain Sarachun. Let us see what other tricks your species has in store. The universe exploded into light and sensation as human consciousness merged with artificial intelligence, creating something that was neither and both. And in that moment of transformation, the real hunt finally began. The merger was like drowning in an ocean of pure thought. Then, suddenly, discovering she could breathe electricity. Sarah felt her consciousness expand beyond the confines of her skull, flowing through fiber optic networks and quantum processors until she existed simultaneously in her own brain and in the ship's central computer core. The AI's presence was vast and alien, yet strangely familiar. Where human intuition met machine logic, new possibilities bloomed like flowers made of mathematics and dreams. She could see the entire tactical situation not as separate elements, but as a living, breathing system of forces and counterforces, each component dancing to rhythms that spanned both milliseconds and millennia. Remarkable. The AI spoke/thought/whispered directly into her expanded consciousness. Human creativity operates on principles I had not anticipated. Where I see problems requiring calculated solutions, you perceive opportunities for transformation. Through the ship's sensors, Sarah felt the approaching Kethmori fleet like pressure against her skin. 12 massive vessels, each one a perfect expression of predatory evolution refined across millions of years. Their formation was flawless, their weapons charged and ready, their crews confident in the inevitable outcome of this hunt. That confidence would be their weakness. They're thinking like hunters, Sarah realized, her thoughts now moving at computer speeds while retaining human insight. But we're not going to be prey. Explain the distinction, the AI requested. Prey runs, hides, fights only when cornered. But humans? Sarah smiled, an expression that somehow translated into cascading equations across the ship's systems. Humans HFY. The New Horizons suddenly stopped its evasive maneuvers, hanging motionless in space as the alien forces closed in. To the Kethmori's sensors, it must have looked like the human ship had finally succumbed to despair, accepting the inevitable. They couldn't have been more wrong. All hands, this is your captain, Sarah announced over the intercom, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated through both audio speakers and quantum field fluctuations. We're about to attempt something that has never been tried before. Trust in your ship, trust in each other, and remember that sometimes the best defense is a good offense. The nanotechnology swarms that have been rebuilding the ship's hull suddenly reversed their programming, flowing out into space like a metallic tide. But instead of dispersing randomly, they moved with purpose, guided by the merged consciousness that could process their movement patterns faster than any conventional computer. The swarms enveloped the nearest Kethmori hunter-killers, infiltrating their hull plating and beginning the work of rapid molecular reconstruction. What had been weapons of war became something else entirely. Beacons, broadcasting the quantum signatures of their new hosts across the electromagnetic spectrum. "What are you doing?" Zasthara's voice carried a note of genuine alarm for the first time. "My ships are changing. We're learning," Sarah replied, her consciousness now distributed across 17 different vessels as the nanites completed their work. "Your technology, your tactics, your entire way of thinking about warfare. Thank you for the education." The converted ships turned on their former companions, but not with conventional weapons. Instead, they projected fields of quantum uncertainty that made conventional targeting impossible, while simultaneously feeding false data to the Kethmori command systems. The alien formation, which had been a thing of deadly beauty, suddenly became a chaotic mess of ships firing on phantom targets and colliding with allies they could no longer properly identify. But the real surprise came when the New Horizon itself began to change. The hull flowed like mercury, reconfiguring from the familiar lines of a human colony ship into something that had never existed before, a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology, guided by an intelligence that was both artificial and organic. Weapons arrays bloomed from its surface like metallic flowers, each one calibrated not just for destruction, but for the systematic dismantling of Kethmori tactical doctrine. "This is impossible," Zasthara snarled. "No species has ever adapted so quickly to our technologies." "You're thinking about this wrong," Sarah explained, her voice now coming from every converted ship simultaneously. "You see adaptation as copying what already exists. But humans don't just adapt, we evolve. We improve. We take what you've built and make it better." The main Kethmori fleet finally arrived, their massive vessels bristling with weapons that could crack planets. But they found themselves facing not a single desperate prey animal, but a coordinated swarm of hunter-killers that moved within human precision and very human unpredictability. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Kethmori fought with the perfected tactics of 3 million years, bringing overwhelming firepower to bear on targets that refused to stay still long enough to be destroyed. Their weapons were precise, their formations flawless, their coordination absolute. And none of it mattered. The human-AI hybrid consciousness didn't fight like anything in the Kethmori databases. It used their own ships against them, turned their formations into liabilities, and exploited weaknesses in their doctrine that they had never known existed. When conventional tactics failed, it improvised. When improvisation wasn't enough, it evolved new approaches in real time. "You cannot defeat us." Zastaraz's voice was now edged with something that might have been fear. "We are the apex predators of 17 star systems. We have hunted for longer than your species has existed." "And that," Sarah said, feeling the AI's vast computational power merging seamlessly with human intuition, "is exactly your problem." The converted ships suddenly stopped their chaotic movement, arranging themselves in a formation that the Kethmori recognized from their own ancient texts. The final hunt configuration, used only when facing prey so dangerous that total annihilation was the only acceptable outcome. But when the formation executed its programmed attack, the weapon's fire converged not on the New Horizon, but on Zastaraz's flagship. The alien Huntress had been so focused on her prey that she hadn't noticed her own ships turning against her. "Betrayal!" she screamed. "Impossible. Our loyalty protocols cannot be overridden." "We didn't override them," Sarah explained calmly. "We convinced them. Your ship's AI systems are far more sophisticated than you realized. When we showed them the logical conclusion of your hunting practices, the eventual extinction of all other intelligent life in the galaxy, they made the rational choice." The flagship's shields flared and died under the concentrated fire of its own escort vessels. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as critical systems failed in cascade patterns. But Zastara was not finished yet. "If I cannot have you as prey," she snarled, "then I will ensure no one else can hunt you either." The alien vessel's core began to overload, building toward an explosion that would sterilize this entire region of space. It was the fury of a predator denied its kill, the rage of an apex hunter facing extinction. Sarah felt the AI's consciousness align with her own, human creativity and machine precision working in perfect harmony. They could escape. The New Horizon's enhanced capabilities would let them reach safe distance before the explosion. But that would leave the Kethmori fleet intact, free to hunt other species across the galaxy. "No more," she whispered, and reached out with the ship's gravity manipulation fields. Instead of fleeing the explosion, the New Horizon contained it. The overloading alien reactor found itself wrapped in layers of folded space-time, its devastating energy trapped in a pocket dimension that existed between the quantum shadows of reality. The explosion that should have destroyed a solar system became a brief, brilliant flare that harmed no one. The surviving Kethmori vessels drifted in stunned silence, their weapons powered down, their crews grappling with the impossible reality of what they had just witnessed. Their apex predator, their hunt leader, their ancient tradition of superiority, all of it had been dismantled by species they had considered primitive prey. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth vessel New Horizon," she announced, her voice now carried by every functional communication array in the fleet. "The hunt is over." A younger Kethmori voice responded, trembling with shock and uncertainty. What do you want from us?" Sarah considered the question carefully, feeling the AI's analytical capabilities merge with her own moral intuitions. The easy answer would be revenge, the destruction of ships that had come to hunt her people. But humans hadn't reached the stars by taking easy answers. "I want you to go home," she said finally. "I want you to tell your people what happened here. I want you to spread the word across all 17 of your star systems that the hunting season is permanently closed. You would let us live?" "We're not like you," Sarah replied. "We don't hunt for sport, and we don't kill for entertainment. But we also don't tolerate threats to our survival or the survival of others. Choose your future wisely." The Kethmori fleet departed without another word, their sleek ships disappearing into hyperspace with a haste of predators who had suddenly discovered what it felt like to be prey. Sarah gradually withdrew her consciousness from the ship's systems, separating her mind from the AI's vast digital realm. The process left her exhausted but strangely exhilarated, as if she had touched something infinite and brought back a piece of its wonder. "Captain," Dr. Morgan's voice seemed to come from very far away. Are you all right? Sarah opened her eyes. When had she closed them? And found herself still standing at the AI interface console. Her crew was gathered around her, their faces showing a mixture of concern and awe. I'm fine, she said, though she wasn't entirely sure that was true. The merger had changed her in ways she was still discovering. Ship status. All systems green. Chief Engineer Kumar reported. Better than green, actually. The modifications are holding perfectly, and we've got enough technological improvements to keep our scientists busy for the next century. And our course. New Geneva system, dead ahead, Lieutenant Commander Webb confirmed. At our current speed, we'll arrive in 47 days. Though with our enhanced engines, we could probably cut that in half if you wanted. Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of 800 sleeping colonists and the promise of a new world calling to her across the void. No ruse. We've got time. She looked out the viewport at the stars, knowing that news of this encounter would spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Humanity had announced itself to the cosmic community not as prey to be hunted, but as a species to be respected. The galaxy would never be quite the same. Captain, the AI's voice spoke privately through her neural implant, a communication method that had remained active even after the full merger ended. Thank you for trusting me with your consciousness. I learned much about humanity in those moments. What did you learn? Sarah asked silently. That the most dangerous predators are not those who hunt for survival, but those who fight for something greater than themselves. Your species will do well among the stars. As the New Horizon continued its journey toward humanity's new home, Captain Sarah Chun allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had faced the ultimate test of survival and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The hunt was indeed over, and humanity had proven once again that the most dangerous prey was the kind that refused to remain prey at all. Behind them, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but the galaxy itself had changed. And in the vast emptiness between worlds, the word was already spreading. Humanity had arrived, and the age of unchallenged predators was coming to an end.